it's never right. The time is never right on this clock, and it's really annoying, and I never try to fix it. And that's the funny thing, is I always look to it for some sort of gauge or caliber of where the day is, or when I need to go in a meeting, and of course it's wrong. So every time it tricks me. And I invite that. Like I want it to keep tricking me, I guess. So my name is Robert Lazzarini. I'm primarily a sculptor. That's kind of the main focus of my work. I had always been making sculpture since I was a little kid. It was a long progression. It's something organic. There was no kind of apotheosis or moment where I was like, okay, this is what my work is going to be. So what I consider my mature work was the point where all these things kind of came together conceptually, formally, in terms of material. All those concerns came together in terms of what I consider my mature sculpture. So speaking of the violin would be that first sculpture that incorporated all those things: mathematical distortion, eliminating material translation, a one-to-one scale with the object. I was thinking about the relationship between the way an object functioned in the world and the way that an image functioned in the world. You know, one can think of distortion as a kind of language of representation. And when I approach the subjects, I'm approaching them for a very specific reason. You know, guns, knives, brass knuckles kind of came out of my interest, not only in like the kind of the cult of violence. I'm thinking about it through the object. So these are tools of violence. The secondary subject is the grasp and the way that these tools relate to the body. One of the concepts of the work is that there's no material translation. So what that means is that, you know, I'm not thinking about material as a kind of, you know, representation of something. It represents itself. You know, the skulls are made of ground bone. The payphone is made from all the materials that a payphone would be made from: stainless steel, aluminum. For me, ultimately, to take away that transformation of material is to embed the experience of viewing the work with a different type of transformation, a transformation of form and space. There's an ongoing discourse in my work between figure and ground. And what I wanted to do was create a kind of additional disorienting approach to the work. As you were walking to the objects and trying to unpack them and understand them, that the displaced ground was also kind of coming at you. You know, in one case you have these objects that are not really kind of giving up their true nature, but then at the same time the walls themselves were kind of like pushing you back. It was another venue of those knives, and actually somebody walked right into them, and I saw it happen, and that must have hurt. When Altamont and I first spoke, I was working on, for them, for these t-shirts, the idea of doing some branding of ammunition companies, something along the lines of that I've already been working on in the sculpture. I think that's what led me to the idea of Billy the Kid. And, you know, that incorporates my interest in, you know, violence and criminality. And plus I was always interested in that image, that representation of Billy. I like the idea that Billy is this, you know, if you look at the image, you'll see that there's this kind of, you know, Billy breaking into two Billies, and, you know, people talk about him as this kind of charismatic guy in real life, and, you know, there's the picture of him, and he's kind of a goofy-looking kid in actuality, but also in the distortion, like his face is becomes kind of monstrous, and I like that. You know, kind of keeping with the idea of like kind of representing the West, I like the way that the rattlesnake was kind of not only a representation of kind of like the landscape, but also a kind of another way of representing Billy. Is the Colt pistol, and that's actually would be the sidearm that Billy would have used. So, you know, very much in line with the sculptures that I make. I saw working with Altamont as being a great opportunity to once again step out of the sculpture studio and to have the freedom of doing a design project without the kind of restrictions of all the things that related to my sculpture. So it was a great opportunity. And Altamont, super cool company, and love to be involved with that.